The Da Vinci Code is probably one of the most successful novels, maybe after Harry Potter. And something that has been ionic about the Da Vinci Code is that its success has been worldwide and reaching even to people where we live in South Africa, people who are in the townships. You will meet someone saying that he has read Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code book, and the person then feels that he knows something about the Christian religion. The book, as things stands now, has sold close to 100 million copies. It's a fascinating book. It's an excellent book, well written. I think Dan Brown is one of the most, elites. Is in that elite category in terms of writing, because in the way that he tells the story, he keeps you, curious, anticipating something. He's a very excellent writer, but the book is false. Excellent writer, but the book is false. We know that, when it starts, he claims that all the claims that he makes in that book are true. That's one of his claims. It's not a problem when a novel can be a historical fiction or what. If a novel is written, and then someone uses certain historical facts and all that, but don't claim that everything that you have written is true, because that's a problem. The entire book, at the heart of the book is the fact that the Christian church has been involved in a great scheme to deceive people. The Christian church, as it stands right now, is hiding the real truth about who Jesus was. The heart of the book, from a Christian perspective, is in fact an attack on the deity of Christ. The book attacks the deity of Christ. When you read the book, some of the very important things that you need to know is that, the issue of the Holy Grail, which is associated with the bloodline. I will explain what that is. The Priora of Zion, which is considered as the secret society that is protecting this secret that the church is trying to hide. And then you have the Opus Dei, which is also a Roman Catholic secret society, which is also involved in this great conspiracy. Now, this successful book, from a South African perspective, I was shocked to see how many of these so-called people who call themselves Afrocentric, and they are they are swallowing up. They've been swallowing up everything that the book has been saying and trying to bring an African perspective to this Eurocentric book. In fact, if you want to read any book that wants to argue falsely for the fact that Christ, some sort of like he is white, because the book believes that Christ and Mary Magdalene, whom the Bible talks about, Mary Magdalene, were involved. They were a couple. That's what the book believes, that Christ and Mary Magdalene, they were a couple and they had a child. When after Christ was crucified, Mary Magdalene had to flee and he ran to France. And from there, he gave birth to this child and gave birth to a dynasty, which, in that book, it is identified with the Merovingian dynasty, which is a dynasty in France. And therefore, this book is centering Christ in Europe. Christ is now a Frenchman. In fact, that's just how it is. Christ is now a Frenchman because he fled to France, and there his dynasty grew and became powerful. And if one looks at the teacher in that book, Tibing, who's also to some extent was a friend of Robert and Sophia, these claims, they begin to, arise, where they claim that there were certain manuscripts that were hidden by the church, and so far there are no manuscripts that have been written by the church. The so-called Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Philip, and all these type of gospels, they are well known. The church is not hiding anything, and these gospels, they are known to be from the 2nd century up to the 3rd, 4th century. And so if you want something, if you are learning about a religion, or you are learning about a movement, you want to go back, lapho eqale khona, eqaleni ngqa, lapho izinto ziqale khona, the beginning of beginnings. And therefore, you can't just read Christianity and end with the 2nd century, the manuscripts, 2nd century manuscript, when we have manuscripts that can be traced to the 1st century. In fact, all the books of the Bibles in the New Testament were written in the 1st century, and John, the book of Revelation being the latest, which was written in 1893, 94, somewhere there. And these books, they tell the real story about who Jesus Christ was, and there's nothing of Jesus having an affair with Mary Magdalene, Christ having a baby with Mary Magdalene. Those were just made up by the heretical groups within the Christian faith, and the church has never hid these documents. These documents are known. These documents are known. People can, go and read up on these documents. They are just nonsense type of documents. The only way that I use these documents is if I want to prove the existence of Christ, that you have this manuscript that spoke about Jesus Christ. Therefore, why will these early manuscripts speak about someone who never existed? But other than that, they are written by heretical groups within the Christian faith, the Gnostic groups, the people who believed that there's a certain type of knowledge that you need, secret knowledge that you need to have, so that you can in fact attain salvation. And this book is trying then to attack the deity of Christ and exalt the goddess worship. The goddess worship. Another claim there is that, in fact, the Bible is in fact about the goddess worship, and it was changed by Constantine. This is what is being said by Tibing, who's known as the teacher. It is said that the Bible was about the goddess worship, and it was changed by Constantine because it was patriarchal, and therefore they suppress the feminine principle so that they can then bring in this patriarchal order, and therefore that resulted in chaos and all this type of things. And the truth is, there's not even a single evidence for that. There's not even a single evidence for that claim that Constantine in some ways was involved in manipulating scriptures so that he can create, make Christ to be divine, to make Christ to be God, so that he can suppress this goddess worship. There's not even one single evidence to prove that. And therefore, the idea now that the Priora of Sion which is the secret society responsible for protecting the so-called dynasty bloodline of Jesus Christ, to which Sophie was, part of that bloodline with his grandmother and brother, and Jacques Sunieri, who was murdered at the beginning of the book. They are believed to be, a part of this bloodline. And therefore, the Prior of Sion, which is a secret society, is then responsible for protecting this bloodline against the attack of the Roman Catholic Church. And therefore, all of these ideas that, Constantine was responsible for that, they are all completely false. There's not even one evidence to prove what this guy is saying. He definitely went to the Gnostic Gospel. The Gnostic Gospels, they are just books written by heretical groups. Just like right now, the Christian faith still has, heretical groups that we still deal with. We have the Word of Faith movement and other type of, these prophetic Christian Zionism. Those are the type of heretical groups that are within Christianity. Then you can't just then take their material as if they are now, the real Christianity, whilst ignoring, the earlier materials that existed talking about Jesus Christ. And then you run for the latter materials, perverted type of materials, and then you say, no, that's the real Christianity. So if you can simply go also to check books by Darrell Borg, Breaking the Da Vinci Code. Darrell Borg comes at that from a Christian historical perspective, and line by line he goes into details to refute the claims that were made in that book, the Da Vinci Code. And also there's another book written by Simon Cox, which is Cracking the Da Vinci Code. I think with Cox, he also takes the middle position. He is neutral. He's not supporting what Dan Brown is saying, and to some extent he's not fully in agreement with Christianity, but he does admit that majority of the claims made in that book are false. They have no historical evidence. So people need to read. To me, I was just shocked, to find that even so-called Afrocentrist, because right now, there's this idea, within black community, within this Afrocentric, African, Pan-Africanist circles of saying the black woman is God, the black woman is God, the sacred feminine, people talking about those type of things, which was suppressed by the church. We need to rid ourselves of patriarchy, and no one is saying anything about matriarchy, as if patriarchy is wrong, matriarchy is wrong. So within now the Afrocentrics, many people have read these books. They are trying to take what Dan Brown is saying, so that they can then utilize it, within their Pan-Africanist thinking, and also to use it to fight against the Christian church, because they believe that also the Christian church has been hiding, the truth from everyone. The Christian church has been hiding the identity of who Jesus Christ is, and all of those things are false. Everything about the Christian faith is outside. Just because, the Roman Catholic, they are doing their own stuff within that secret Vatican, archives. Whatever they have there has nothing to do with the Christian faith. We have the manuscripts, we have our Bibles, we read them, and we know that many of the things that these people are doing, the Bible refutes them, you see. So therefore, let us be careful. Let us just not swallow up things just because they are written by these brilliant European men, and try to dress them in African attire and then impose them on people. That's dangerous, and we are endangering the lives of other people. I hope this video helps somehow. If you have any comments, any critique, please post them in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe into our Nubian Exodus channel, and I hope ukuthi ube nosuku oluhle. Bye bye.